Hi everyone, welcome. I'm preparing to check in on a couple of my red wiggler bins. These systems are now definitely among my oldest systems. I mean, older than this, I've got my outdoor bag, and I've also got two other systems here on the shelf that are older. Those are actually still being actively fed. So these systems, both being younger, I had sort of planned on continuing with the feedings, even here in the older system, which is now 267 days old. So during the 12 days since our last check-in with these systems, the younger system has passed its 200th day in service, now 207 days old. These feeding zone indicators are holding up pretty good, but part of the feeding I'm giving them today includes replacement coffee filters, so they can get nice new feeding zone indicators. These old ones can get sort of just repurposed. We'll use them as bedding, but you know what? We'll do the same thing we did last time. Last time we added bedding only to the feeding in the younger system. Here in the older system, we gave them food, but no extra bedding. And the feeding we gave them 12 days ago was stuff that we kind of thought would all be gone, or almost all gone, within one increment between feedings, or one interval between feedings. So, yeah, I guess we did not predict correctly. Sometimes a tomato, I bet you this thing still, well, maybe, I don't know, maybe not. Maybe it just did burst recently a few days ago. But probably held out so good because its skin had not burst yet. So I do remember a few tomatoes being included with the last feeding. I guess the sign would have been those little tomato sprouts that are already growing on the surface. So that tomato would have been part of the last feeding. The Brussels sprout leaves, I doubt we would see any leftovers of. We added coffee and warm chow like we're going to feed again today, but you would expect to see no leftovers of stuff like that either. Is this another tomato? It could be. A couple small leftovers from the last feeding, but certainly not much, that's for sure. And then last time, we actually did a much more thorough, complete stir of almost all the material in this older system. In the younger system, we didn't go so thorough. Here we just sort of followed our typical routine of, yeah, maybe exploring the outskirts of the system, but not focusing so much like we did in the older bin of trying to actually stir it all together and intermingle some of the more damp and dry materials and sort of level things off. Here, I think we've still got more ways to go. Here we put the two coffee filters as the foundation for the feeding last time. I think there may have even been other paper added in as supplementary bedding. I definitely remember encountering some of these large objects like that piece of corn cob over there. Certain things that we're going to anticipate removing as a whole at some point, but we don't want to also break up the chunks into small pieces that we could easily miss. At this point, I like the idea of keeping those things sort of large and chunky, so they're easily found and removed at some point in the near future. But we've still got time to go in here. Definitely got some time to go in this one. I got my prepared bedding on the side over here too, so besides a couple of coffee filters going in as supplementary bedding here in the younger bin, I thought we'd also include some of my prepared bedding too. So let's get to feeding these little guys. I'm sure they're going to appreciate this yummy, delicious pumpkin that we're giving them. It's all frozen. Came out of the refrigerator not too long ago, so going in here pretty much ice cold, and as the stuff starts to thaw out, it'll be kicking out all of its juices, and all this paper right beneath where we're going to be feeding is going to be a great place to see all that moisture sort of collect down into this paper and make all this paper just as tempting to nibble on as the pumpkin itself. So what am I doing here? I'm such an airhead. So busy running my mouth here, I totally forgot that we were not going to be putting bedding in here and contaminating the beautiful material. We're going to just be putting food only. So man, can you imagine if I had come back in here next time not realizing the goof up I made? But I mean, I would have probably noticed it in editing. Good thing I noticed here now. Oh, I'm such an airhead sometimes. All right. But guess what? My mistakes always end up to some worm's benefit. And in this case, it's these guys here in the younger bin getting the benefit of not only what I consider to be a good daily portion of bedding in the younger bin, but now even more by receiving the extra bedding that wasn't really intended to go in there today, but now has been added as we scooped it out of the wrong place where we did not intend to put it. Alright. Yeah, I mean, I bet you we were to come back in here another 12 days from now, if we were to leave another 12-day interval, I suspect that we would not really see much, if any, of this pumpkin remaining. Perhaps little fragments of the skin, you know, this very thin outer part of it, but I bet you all the rest of it would get gobbled up in the next 12 days. I don't know. Last time there was only a 10-day interval between check-ins. On this occasion we waited 12, so there's no real specific schedule. It's just as the kitchen scraps start piling up and I need a place to bring them, so ends up my schedule of feeding my wormies. Although I've always got a pretty steady supply, so I always, almost every day, have a little something to give the wormies. And all right, looks like we spilled a little bit of coffee up here too. Well, a little bit of a sloppy start. I think we recovered. Hopefully we didn't contaminate the nice finished castings in the older system too much. And hopefully what we're left with down here in the older system is pretty much all compostable stuff that is going to be gone in a week or so. Yeah, if not, it'll be close to being gone in about a week or so. That's what I think. So let's cover up as we have been doing lately. We've been using that as an excuse to inspect the rest of the system, and in here I think we're seeing pretty much what one would expect to see, which is almost all castings. Here and there I do spot a little fragment of something. I guess I could try to bring it front and center if it isn't too much of a pain to do so. But I do at some point believe we'll be able to transition this system to foraging, start lining it up for harvest. I know that we just started winter, but before you know it, you're going to start getting that itch like, hey, I need castings. I'm going to be planting a garden soon. Better start assembling a nice collection. So even though I don't have that itch yet, I'm sure it'll start kicking in soon. And now we can cover up the goings on over here in the younger system, where here we've been pretty generous with the bedding, pretty much treating it as a routine everyday setup. Perhaps now over 200 days of age, or perhaps it was probably already a good idea maybe at around 150 days of age is what I'm starting to form as possibly the best thinking for the addition of really slow composting bedding type of materials like leaves that bring a lot of leaf stems with them. And yeah, someday maybe I'll get off the topic of leaf stems, but they do seem to be a recurring theme. Every time I encounter a more senior system, sort of like this one, where I still see lots and lots of leaf stems, just kind of leading me to the thinking of, hey, it was kind of maybe a missed opportunity to perhaps withhold the application of slower composting stuff like leaves and their stems, and kind of tailoring their application of bedding for a smoother transition towards being completed and having the material harvested for all the lovely castings. Well, I think we've got time for that to mature to a nice stage, but I do believe that by adding only a sort of a papery, cardboardy bedding, we're probably helping out a little bit by giving them stuff that they can break down a little bit more easily than a leaf stem. So I think that's it for our check-in, everyone. Let's just bring back the plastic covers and we'll be finished. I did sort of contemplate possibly including another piece of paper out here as a top covering, just in case the worms might possibly be craving a little extra carbon and want to nibble on it, but I didn't really see signs on the feeding zone indicators suggesting that they were really desperate for bedding, and that goes the same for both systems. So I didn't bother with top coverings. I just went right back with the feeding zone indicators and keep it simple. All right, everyone, that's it for the check-in. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before you go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone, have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.